Thus far, we have highlighted the seemingly superfluous preamble that the Gemara has included with respect to the bracha of Shechiyanu at a Pidyon Haben ceremony. We touched upon the Noda Yehuda's justification for this preamble, in which he suggested that it was the nusach of the bracha al pidyon haben, as opposed to liftot et haben, that generated the issue as to who makes the shechiyanu bracha, the kohen on account of his receiving the 5 slaim, or the father on account of the fact that he is the one who's actually fulfilling the mitzvah. The Rebbe in the SICHAH will now raise 3 weaknesses with the Noda Yehuda's justification. The first is one of context, in which the emphasis seems to be upon the who rather than the what. The text reads, Bo minei pshita al pidyon haben. Clearly, in the situation of a pidyon haben, the bracha v'tzivanu al pidyon haben avi haben mevarech. It is the father who makes the bracha, and then goes on to raise the issue with respect to shechiyanu. Is it the kohen or is it the avi haben? Who as opposed to what? In a similar vein, the focus of the preamble itself, according to sentence structure, supports a who issue there rather than a what issue. The subject here is the Avi Haben. The Pshita informs us that the Avi Haben is Mevarech al Pidyon Haben. If the focus was to be the what, in other words the Nusach of the Bracha, then the order should have been reversed. First the subject, Pshita, clearly in the case of a Pidyon Haben, the subject, Avi Haben, Mevarech, the object, Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al Pidyon Haben. Rather than a rather roundabout structure of Pshita, clearly, in the case of Pidyon Haben, where the bracha is al Pidyon Haben, that is said by the Avi Haben. Thirdly, if the issue is one of Nusach, we have a superfluity of words. What the Gemara should have stated was simply, Bo minei, they asked of Rab Simlai, Pshita, in light of the fact that clearly, in the case of a Pidyon Haben, the bracha is Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al Pidyon Haben, it makes no difference who says the bracha. Then we have the question as, who should recite the Birchat Shechiyanu, the Kohen or the Avi Haben? There are not fatal flaws. Obviously, the Noda Yehuda's interpretation can still stand with a little bit of juggling, but the Rebbe in the SICHAH will approach the entire matter from a different perspective, as will be seen in part 2 of this adaptation of the SICHAH for Parshat Bo. Over and above the superfluous preamble to the issue that we have previously touched upon, we have a further anomaly with the concluding segment to this incident. In that segment, the Gemara records that Rabbi Simlai was not able to come to a conclusion. He brought the matter to the Beit Midrash, and I assume the issue was discussed and a conclusion was reached. Amrulei, the scholars at the Beit Midrash, informed him that Avi Haben Mevarech Shtayim, that the father makes 2 brachot. The 2 brachot referring to 1 al Pidyon Haben and 2 Shechiyanu. The Gemara then goes on to establish a halacha, the Hilchata, Avi Haben Mevarech Shtayim, that the father of the child at the Pidyon Haben makes 2 brachot. In light of the fact that there was never any issue as to who makes the bracha al Pidyon Haben, the issue that was presented to Rabbi Simlai focused upon the bracha of Shechiyanu. As such, the question can be asked, both with respect to the response that was given to Rabbi Simlai at the Bet Midrash, and with respect to the establishment of the halacha, why we are informed as to the number of the brachot to be recited by the father. That information is rather insignificant. A more appropriate response would have been simply that the father recites the bracha of Shechiyanu, because this was the issue. And similarly in the halacha, that the Avi Haben is Mevarech Shechiyanu, rather than, as we have it now, Avi Haben Mevarech Shtayim, that the father recites 2 brachot. The conclusion drawn from this would be that the number of brachot needs to be considered as an integral part of Mitzvat Pidyon Haben, a point that would be further amplified in part 2.